Hi, happy Tuesday, besties and bosses. How are y'all? How's your weekend? How's your week going? I cannot believe we are at the end of January almost the first month of the year is finished, which is always so wild because I feel like we were just saying, I can't believe it's almost the end of the year. So time is always a very funny mercurial, or I don't know, just a very interesting construct to me. But I'm excited to hang with y'all. We have a free masterclass today. We haven't done one of these in a second, and these are some of my favorite things to do. I think this year we are planning on doing one every month. Last year we did them a little less frequently because we were getting the podcast going, but now that that is all well oiled, I really love doing these and hanging with y'all so much in these. So we should be having one, I believe, so far, at least the next 6 months. I know we have one planned every month. And this month, I wanted to dive into the 7 pillars for profit without sacrificing your sanity and values with y'all. Usually, let's just go through a little housekeeping here with the master classes. Generally, I'm about, hey, Courtney, nice to have you. Nice to see you. Everyone who's live now or on the replay, I should say this because I don't know if we remember to put this in all the emails, but we are giving away a free one-on-one coaching session. If you're live, if you're watching on the replay, we'll check this, let's just say by Friday. All you gotta do is comment. If you comment, that enters you for a free one-on-one session with me. If you don't want it and you win it, just let us know. If you're like, I already have a coach or I'm good, we can gift it to someone else. I really just want to reward y'all for being here because for the master classes in particular, usually my live streams are 45 minutes to an hour. We tend to go a little longer with these because I really want to give you a ton of value and I can be a little long-winded. So expect between 60 to 90 minutes on this. I will make sure we wrap up by then. If nothing else, my husband's stomach will be growling and he'll want to eat if I go longer than that. But just so you know what to expect with that, and that's definitely why I want to reward those of you who are here on the replay hanging with me. For today's masterclass, if you didn't sign up, there is a bonus playbook. I will drop the link for that if you didn't get it already here so you can catch that in the replay. We'll send out a replay link tomorrow. There will be a replay. We're not like dragging this down tomorrow. That's not how we roll here. I'm not worried about trying to take this away from y'all. I really want you to get the value from this. The bonus playbook for this one in particular, I do recommend grabbing. You could be on my list already. It doesn't matter to me if you grab it or not, but my team put a lot of effort into it. What I think is really nice about this one, part of what we're going to be talking about today, is not just the pillars, but how to think about these pillars like a business owner. These are the same questions I'm asking myself that I'm working on with my coach. These are the same ways I'm coaching my clients so that they can have really epic results. My clients do incredible. They do everything from starting their business from scratch and starting to make their first 1K, 5K months to making 500K a year, $1 million a year. They really do incredible things, but so much of the reason for that is we're really big on identifying and solving the right problem in their business. And this is what my coach helps me with. This is what I want to support all of you with. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, because I can't possibly give you every single detail for all of your businesses with 7 pillars, but we can talk about how to think about these and apply them to your specific business. And I think for this training in particular, a lot of what we're going to talk through, these are really great things to revisit and audit in your business. I revisit these pillars. I usually pick a pillar per month or revisit them every 6 months. So this is something you can revisit every 90 to 6 months in your business, or when you're finding a challenge or you have to make a decision or you need to have some discernment in your business, it can be really helpful to go through these pillars. So that's kind of how you can use the playbook. If you don't have that, I will make sure we drop a link so you can grab that. Try and think if there's any other housekeeping. I think that's kind of the whole housekeeping on this. If you have questions, if you have reflections, throw them at me. I love your questions. I love asking because we have a little bit more material than usual that I want to go through. I will definitely see it, read it, and if it's something that I know I'm going to answer later, I'll just let you know so that way we're not here for 14 hours and we can honor everyone's time. So I hope that makes sense and we will get started. So with 7 pillars for profit and without sacrificing your values and your sanity, one of the things that I really wanted to bring to y'all and why I wanted to bring this training in particular and kind of the way I think about business and just what I've seen for myself over the years. For those of you who don't know me, I should say hi, I'm Kim Margetsinger. Just assume if you're in this group, you know me. I'm a mindset coach and business mentor, and I help my clients to build, grow, and scale profitable businesses on their terms. And something I have noticed, so I've grown my business from sort of like being in that struggle bus phase to my first 6 figures, to multi-6 figures, to continuing to add on about 100K plus each year doing one-on-one work, and I support my clients through their own growth. And something I've really, really noticed is business is not one size fits all. And the more we try to approach business like it is one size fits all, the more we actually can stall, stop, and sabotage our business growth. I've noticed this in myself when I was starting my business, and I see this through clients. It's so much of what we try to unpack. And so when I say making money on your terms, like, yes, that sounds really great. And like doing this without sacrificing your values, absolutely. And this is really the way to create success. If you look at any multi-million, billion-dollar company out there, any of the companies that are massive, conglomerates of a company, they're really doing things their way and what serves their business. If they were trying, that's what makes innovation, right? If they were trying to run their business the way Coca-Cola tried to run their business, the way that Microsoft ran its business, they would probably have a lot of problems. And I think what's really challenging for us in the online space is we're kind of in this time where it's so great because there's so much information at our fingertips. And yet with that, it can kind of do more harm than good sometimes because we're getting so much information that isn't always the right problem to solve, right? It's not always the thing we need to solve in our business. And a lot of times it can have us kind of looking for like, what is the right way to do things, and have us outsource our power. And someone will gladly take your power away from you and sell something to you on the internet all day, every day. So that's why I really wanted to have this training, because when I think about business, I think it's sort of like the pendulum can swing. So we can go like, okay, I need to find the 7-step formula out there. And then when we kind of get rid of, oh, that doesn't actually work, it's almost like it swings completely the other way, where we think, well, then F it. I'm not going to follow anything. Screw business principles. I'm just going to do things completely my own way. But we can almost go so far that we miss some of the very core foundational principles to business that run across all business success. And so today what we're going to do is not give you 7 steps to business success or a one-size-fits-all formula, because frankly, you could literally copy my business and it would probably do more harm than good for you. And I always tell my clients, like, you do not want you to be a mini me. That will not serve you. But what we can do is look at what are those pillars that support. If we think about a pillar in a business, right? Those are the beams that support a business structure. What are the business pillars that support all businesses? If I look at my business, if I look at my clients' businesses, if I look at the giant companies out there that are that we're investing in the stock market, what are those core pillars? That's what we're going to look at today. And then we're going to look at, again, how can we think about these so that we're solving the right problem in business? I'm going to keep saying that. It's something I've learned from my coach. Shout out to Lacey Seitz. But it's so easy to solve the wrong problem in business. For anyone who has read Atomic Habits by, what's his name, James Clear, he talks about, I think it's Goodhart's theory or Goodhart's principle, but just this idea that it's really easy for us to measure the wrong metric, and then we really reinforce the wrong behavior. And I think I actually pulled up a quote on this for y'all on Goodhart's principle, because I think it's just so what we're talking about here, which says we optimize the wrong measurement, we get the wrong behavior. And I think that's what unintentionally happens in business so often, right? When we're trying to find the one-size-fits-all formula, or we're solving for the wrong problem, or we're not trusting ourselves and we're outsourcing our power, we end up measuring we optimize the wrong measurement, and then we optimize the wrong behavior. And so what this can look like is optimizing the measurement of sales when that's not actually the problem in your business. And what we really need to look at is the retention of clients, or optimizing the measure of engagement when that's really not the behavior we need to look at. The problem we really need to solve is maybe your mindset, or maybe it is the conversions on the back end of that. Or maybe it's growing your audience to even get that engagement. So that's so much of what we're going to talk about here today. If you haven't read Atomic Habits, I'm a big fan of that book. But that's really the principle we want to try to avoid. We really want to look at how can we, because what you measure, your brain is going to focus on. And we want to give your brain the metrics that matter in your business and the right problems to solve. Precious, thank you. Nice to see you. Thank you for the heart. Nice to have you here. And everyone who's just hopping on now, that counts as an entry. Leave a emoji, leave a comment, leave a question. Sometime throughout this, you will be entered to win a one-on-one coaching session. If you don't want it, you can gift it to someone else. We can gift it to someone else. Okay, so we're gonna go through these pillars. We're gonna talk about them. I'm gonna talk about them more the way we think about them so you can apply them to your business. That is my intention here. Please, 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 please take this and think, how can I use this as a pillar, as a foundational part of business, and apply this to my business to solve the right problems, to notice, do I have a gap here? Do I have a hole here? Or is this working really well and I need to focus on something else? That's what we're going to keep coming back to, not how is someone else doing this? I need to do this the same exact way. How is Kim saying she does this in her business? I need to do it the same exact way. Please, please, please. That's not what we want here at all, because it's just, I don't care. You're welcome to do what I do, but it's just probably not going to serve you, because your business is going to look very, very different than mine, and what serves me and what lights me up. And remember, we're looking at profiting in a way that honors your values and that also honors your sanity. We're going to do that, and then as you have questions, just throw them at me. So y'all know, I got to start with mindset and energy as our first pillar. We have 7 of them. I promise a lot of these are very business focused, but I think mindset and energy for me is such a core central pillar to business. And I mean, you know that I think 90 to 95% of business, if you've ever hung out with me, gets started in our mindset and in our energy. And I think this is also the easiest pillar to overlook, or when things are busy or when we're stressed, to sort of be like, well, that's a nice to have. Let me come back to that. And what I really want to offer here is, this is not a nice to have. This is the whole game. Like, I don't want to say the whole game, because if we just have this pillar, right? If we think about the pillars of a business, if you only have a building, if you only have one pillar, you're going to have a very, very lopsided building. We absolutely need the other pillars. I'm absolutely a proponent of some very clear strategy and taking action on that. However, if we don't have this core pillar, this is the pillar that is the fuel for everything else. I think about mindset and energy a lot like how you might think about athletes, professional athletes, the fuel they put into their body and the amount of sleep they get. That's not their whole strategy, right? That's not what makes someone win the Olympics. However, if they're not fueling their body really well and getting the right sleep, it doesn't matter how well they train, right? Their training is gonna kind of go to crap. Their fuel in their body, their sleep, is directly related to how well they're then able to train or to perform or to compete. It's kind of the same thing for you in your business. Your mindset and energy, if we're not feeding your business body first, it's really, really challenging to sustain anything else, especially if we want to do this in a way that feels sustainable and lights you up and meets your values and keeps you from burning out. So y'all know this is important. I'm not going to hit you over the head with that, but what I thought here is we could talk about 2 different ways I think about mindset, because obviously mindset is, we could do a course just on, I have a course on mindset. We could spend 6 months on mindset. So it's hard to speak to every single piece here, but I'm going to speak to 2 pieces that you can really focus on. And there's some questions for you in the playbook as well. And just for clarity here, because I know sometimes people ask what's the difference between mindset and energy. I really think of mindset more as the thoughts we're having, and then energy more as the somatic, the nervous system, what we're experiencing in our body. I think both they're kind of part of the same pillar. Both are really, really important, and our ability to manage our mind and to manage our nervous system and to regulate our nervous system is directly correlated to our capacity to run a successful business and to sustain that success and to scale it. So hopefully that makes sense there. So a big thing I support my clients with, and I think this is a really great place to think about how we can think about both mindset and energy, is managing their mind, managing their regulating their nervous system so that they can get to neutral. So what I think about with business is, I think sometimes when we hear mindset or energy, we almost think like that means now I need to think positive all the time, or I need to fix myself, or I need to heal all my trauma in order to make business, to make money, or that means that I can never have a fear, or that I can never feel sad, or if I do feel sad, I'm going to manifest bad things into my business, or if I have a bad thought, I'm going to make my business like manifest bad things. And I don't personally believe that at all. I have gone through some very big challenges in my business, and we've still, or personally, and we still continue to sustain and scale. And I've seen that with clients as well. However, what I do think is really, really important on this pillar is learning to manage your mind and to be able to manage and regulate your nervous system to a place where you can take something that is triggering, take something that is charging you up, take something that is activating your nervous system, or being able to notice your thoughts, being able to catch them and have the tools to neutralize them, to get to a place from neutral and to run your business from neutral. And so you can have all the fear in the world, all the triggers in the world. You can be processing that stuff. That's okay. You get to be a human. You get to be a human running a business, serving other humans, but it's your ability to manage those very human thoughts and emotions that are coming from other people and from yourself, and to get to a neutral place to make decisions, to have discernment, to run your business that's going to make the difference. And so when I think about mindset work, when I'm coaching clients, the goal is not like, how do we get you to be a fake Pollyanna? How do we get you to bypass what you're feeling? It's how can we help you process this, get to a place of neutral so you can make really neutral decisions. We're going to talk through a lot of other pillars today. And those pillars, we want you to be able to look at those pillars from a neutral mindset. That's how you're going to make really clear decisions to see, what does my business need from these pillars? If we're all jacked up because we're triggered by what someone said, or if we're all jacked up because we're feeling really horrible about our business or the state of the world, and then we're taking that into business, and that's the place we're running our business from, that's when we start to have problems. If we don't know how to regulate, to manage our mind, to manage our thoughts, or to regulate our nervous system, when maybe someone doesn't buy from you, or a launch doesn't go the way you want, or someone doesn't like your content, or someone says something negative, or someone no-shows, or you have a refund request, or someone says they can't afford it, all the things that happen in business, right? Instead of being able to neutrally respond and navigate that like the CEO you are, it's really easy for us to get into reactivity mode, or to get into a fear response of fight, flight, freeze, or bond, which we'll do a whole nother live stream on that if y'all are interested. But once we're in fight, flight, freeze, or bond, we're really reacting in our business from a fear response instead of from that neutral place. So I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole on this one, because again, we could talk a lot, but that's really what I want you to be thinking about and invite you to think about with mindset when, if you're self-coaching or if you're coaching others, when you're looking at your business, just check in with yourself and see, am I at a place of neutral right now when I'm sending this email, when I'm writing this sales email, when I'm writing this content, when I'm getting on this client call? If not, what do I need to be able to get to neutral? What do I need to process? What do I need to let go of? What mindset work do I need to go do? Do I need to reach out to my coach? What do I need to get to neutral? So that's kind of the one part there. And then I think with that too, that might also be nervous system regulation, right? Like, do I need to regulate my nervous system? Am I at a neutral place in my nervous system? Do I have the tools to regulate my nervous system? If not, that's okay, you're human, right? We all get activated, but how can I regulate my nervous system first, really soothe that so I am feeling more peaceful in my body, so I can respond in my business from that place? I promise you, nothing is going to impact your business more positively, is that phrasing, than being able to manage your mind and regulate your nervous system. I literally have an affirmation, which is, the more I prioritize my peace, the more I profit. You're welcome to borrow that. And with that, it is, the more I regulate my nervous system, the more I prioritize the peace in my mind, the more I profit in business. I see it as directly correlated. Absolutely correlated, because of what we're talking about. It changes how you show up and the decisions you make. The other piece here that you can play with on the mindset side, and again, this is not all the things, but I think this will help you have some tools for a lot of the stuff that comes up with mindset, because a lot of it is really trying to navigate the thoughts the brain wants to hand us that are activating. The other side to this that I find really helpful is, I really like to think about a CEO mindset, meaning, how am I thinking like a CEO and treating my business like a business owner? What is the mindset and identity that is associated with that? Because when we think about mindset, you've probably heard me talk about this before on the podcast or in other trainings, our identity is really, it's how we see ourselves. It encompasses all of our mindset and our energy, and it really sets the parameters by which we live our lives and by which we run our business. And for most of us, we weren't born with the identity of entrepreneur, of coach, of designer, of OBM, I have a lot of service providers here, so I don't know what everyone who's watching, what your business is, but most of us weren't born with the identity of that role, and most of us definitely weren't born with the identity of an entrepreneur. Most of us, I think, have had jobs before, worked for other people, have been employees, and there's nothing wrong with an employee mindset at all. The only time there's something wrong with that is when you're not in an employee role and you're in the role of a CEO, right? Having a CEO identity as an employee, also not so serving. Like, if someone were to hire me, I pretty much joke that I'm unhireable at this point because I have such a CEO identity. I think I'd make a really crappy employee. But as an employee, there's nothing wrong with that. In your own business, the more you can identify with and strengthen your identity as a CEO and learn how to think like a CEO. I talk a lot, not just about the identity and the mindset in terms of positive and like thinking positively, but also literally learning how to think like a business owner and treat your business like a business and make those decisions like a business owner. The more that's going to serve your your mindset overall in business and your energy in business. So I think with the identity piece, I put some questions around that for you in the playbook. I would just really invite you to look at what is your current identity in business and how can you really step into, how do you want to identify as a CEO? How can you really strengthen that identity as a CEO? And really keep coming back to that, because the more you identify as, I'm a business owner who runs a really successful business and who makes a lot of money, who people pay for their services, the more you identify as that and the more you can think like someone who is making money and running a successful business and making those decisions, the more that's going to positively impact your business. I think that is, I'm just checking my notes because there's so much here, but the big thing there, those are my two big things there. And just go through the playbook on that. And if you all want me, you'll have to let me know if you want me to do a separate live stream on identity. We can do a whole live stream just on identity. And we're always doing live streams in here on mindset in particular and the stuff that the brain can throw us. But I would play with the mindset energy pillar. Those are, I think, two big pieces you can take and really use to, again, solve the right problem in your business. And this feels important because I'm going to say this a lot through today's training, solving the right problem in your business. The reason I say this is it's so easy. If you're someone who loves mindset, it's so easy to always think it's a mindset thing when really what's going on might be, for example, we'll talk about sales, might be that something is going on with sales. And so I want you to be able to identify, is this that I'm activated and triggered and I'm not neutral? Okay, if so, always that's the first problem to solve. How do I get to neutral? Even if it's also another pillar where we need to solve a problem. I think that's just kind of a helpful rule of thumb. If I'm activated, if my brain is spinning out and I'm triggered, first problem, problem isn't like the most positive word, but the first thing to solve for is how do I get to neutral? Then I can look at, is that the only thing I needed to do? Or is there another problem here, another pillar to address? So I hope that's helpful for you. I find that's really helpful if you're self-coaching or coaching others as well. It's sort of like activation, because if we're activated, we can't solve another problem logically in your business. So even if there is, for example, a problem with your sales process or a challenge with your marketing or with a client or with a team member, if you're activated, if you're running away from a tiger and you're activated and freaked out, that is not the time to problem solve, right? First, we need to get you safe and deactivated and neutral, then we can problem solve on the more practical, strategic level. Precious says, love this. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. I'm so glad this is resonating. So that's always going to be step one. If you're already at neutral and you're not activated, then we know there's probably a strategy, one of these other pillars to address. Okay, I'm gonna try to speed through these a tiny bit just because we have 6 more, and I promised y'all I would do this with 90 minutes or less. So but definitely let me know if you have questions on this, and then let me know if there's any pillars you want us to do an additional live on. So our next pillar is service, and I wanted this to be the next pillar before we dive into anything like marketing and sales. Courtney says, get back to neutral is one of the best pieces of advice you've given me. Oh, thank you for saying that. That makes me so happy. It's like the most game-changing thing for me. I find it's fascinating how different things look from neutral. And I always like to think, once our car is in neutral, we can shift into high gear, but it's really hard to do that when we're in reverse. But thank you for saying that. So I really wanted to bring service as our second pillar here, because I think this is a really interesting pillar where for most of you, you're probably very service oriented and service based, but I find even with that, we can really have the pendulum swing with service. I find in our online space, it's almost like service can get forgotten as such a core pillar for what creates success and profitability. To the degree, my husband works at a startup here in New York City, and they have like $1 billion evaluation. They spend so much on service and customer service and quality of service. They tag new customers so that their delivery people can pay extra attention and deliver extra service, because there is such a link to the level of service you deliver and your profit margin and the cost associated with bringing in new customers. It costs far more to bring on a new client or customer than it does to keep one. I'll share a couple stats with you, but it's a really, 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 really big pillar for your profit. And I find in our online space, it's almost like this has gotten forgotten, and that we have forgotten what works in every other industry. And it gets very much like TikTok or Clubhouse or Reels. It almost like that is what business becomes about. And look, I love me some social media marketing. I'm not hating, but I think we have to remember that is one small piece of what creates profit in business. And service is such a massive part of where your profitability and your sustainability in business comes from. And so I find, again, the pendulum can really swing to either almost we forget all about it and it just becomes about the front end of business and marketing and sales. And we forget about the service on the back end, which is how you keep clients, y'all. This is how the reason my business is so easy is not because we're booking 1,000 clients a month. It's because I love my clients so much and most of them stay and renew, right? It's because I'm serving people really well. I'm showing up and serving you here. Like that's what makes business easy. That's what cuts your costs. That will that will increase your profit margin because you're cutting your costs exponentially in our space, especially if you don't have massively deep pockets for advertising and PR. But I find it either swings that way, or because you are so heart-centered and service-based and passion-driven, it can almost swing the other way where we hear be of service, deliver more value than you want in return. And it can almost become like this weird lopsided energy exchange where it's more like an indentured servitude or something, where it's like, I have to pour so much service in that I'm not getting the energy exchange, the money in exchange. And it's almost like bad to ask for money. I find particularly, we did a whole live stream on this, but in the therapy space, in the healing space, I think this is really prevalent where it's almost like service to the degree of disservicing, is that a word? The business owner where they're not making money in return. Hey Marie, nice to have you here. And for everyone jumping on now, leave a comment, say hi, that'll get you entered to win a free coaching session. We'll pick winners on Friday. So I think we really want to find, again, like where are we on this pendulum swinging? Either extreme is not good. Forgetting about service will really cut into your profit if you're even profiting, and it will definitely cut into your profit margin. But if we swing into like, I just need to like bleed and not get anything in return in terms of service, that's not going to support your profitability because it's going to cut into your sustainability. Remember, this whole live stream is about not just profiting, but doing so with peace, doing so where you're honoring your values and your sanity. And so either way is not going to serve you. And so I think with service, first and foremost, we're going to talk about this in another pillar, but remembering service starts with you. If your cup is not full, if you're not taking care of you, if you're not finding an even energy exchange, it's not going to serve you in your business. Ellen says, and lead to burnout, 1,000%. And burnout is so real in our space, y'all. No shame for anyone who's been burnt out. I think sometimes there's a lot of shame around burnout as well. Almost like you've done something wrong if you've burnt out. So no shame to anyone who's burnt out, but it really is very prevalent in our space. I think not enough people talk about it. It's something I support clients with so often. And we can see how this happens, especially if you are heart-centered and in the caring space. I think or a high achiever. I think those are two ingredients for burnout. So a little PSA, like I can absolutely learn to burn out. So we really have to find where is the place of service that serves you so that you can then serve your audience and serve your clients. That being said, I'm just gonna throw a couple stats at you just to highlight how this affects your profitability. So 33% of Americans say they'll consider switching companies just after a single instance of poor service. I mean, that's huge, y'all. I'm not gonna read all of these because I have so many. Just Google this and you'll get like crazy stats on this. But after one negative experience, 51% of customers will never do business with that company again. 7 out of 10 US consumers say they've spent more money to do business with a company that delivers great service. That's the one I really wanted to share to all of you, particularly if you're in high ticket sales. 7 out of 10 Americans are saying they'll spend more. I know I will spend more for good service. I will gladly spend more for a good service because I know where that saves me everywhere else. I'm just gonna cut through 4 of these, but here's the other one I think that is helpful as well when it comes to making a purchase. 64% of people find customer experience more important than price. After having a positive experience with a company, 77% of customers would recommend it to a friend. So this goes on and on and on. Just in terms of how much service is directly linked to people's buying habits, their purchasing habits, their investing habits. Service, I think, can sound like fluff. Service is directly related to our willingness to spend more, our willingness to stay with a company. And it is also for you as a business owner, again, in terms of sustainability, it costs far more, I don't know the exact stats on this, but it costs far more to create a new client, whether that's in time, energy. For anyone who's booked one-on-one clients, right? You know how much goes into the front end of booking booking a client, it costs far more to book a client than it does to keep one. Service is so much of the back end of your sales process that allows you to retain customers, clients, and get that word of mouth marketing that allows for that sustainability and ease. So I think it's a really important pillar that, again, just I think not enough, like no one online is like, hey, we should be focusing on service. It's more like, hey, how do you get your TikTok views up and like do this hip hop dance? And again, I'm not hating, but I think it's just really, really funny how we sometimes forget the pillars, the right problems to solve in terms of what is actually linked to your profitability and sustaining that profit. Precious says, yes, serve with heart, but fill yourself first. Exactly, it is exactly that. So I think with this, and I put some questions around this, we're going to talk about different pieces, but I've got 3 real quick thoughts for you with service. One, the way we like to think about this in my business is knowing this, we're finding that middle ground, right? What is that even energy exchange? How can I service myself first and then everyone else? And then with that, we just like to really keep, this is with team, our top priority in business is clients come first. Clients and audience come first, meaning we just take a service first based approach. And it's just really helpful in terms of priority. That means, for example, if a client really needed something and I had some other marketing thing going on, right? Like that's always going to come first. To the degree of I put myself before that with boundaries and everything so I can take care of myself. And so I think that can just be a really helpful filter and frame. And especially if you have a team or you're growing a team, it can be really helpful for team as well because they don't know necessarily what to prioritize unless you're telling them. So really simple there. The second one here on a really practical strategic level, because this is such a high priority and because I care about this from a heart-centered place, I want my clients to, I love my work. I want my clients to have an incredible experience and get incredible results. And from a smart businesswoman perspective, I know how important this is to my business and my bottom line, right? It gets to be both. We can be heart-centered, love our work, care about our clients and their experience, and we can be smart business people who care about our profit and our profit margin. And I know service is such a core pillar of that. Excuse the background noise, y'all. Because of that, what I like to do is literally set time in my calendar where I just revisit. I usually do this about once every 6 months, but where I'm just revisiting service and I'm just looking at where are the opportunities to improve service. My client experience, right? What's the opportunity to improve client experience? What's the opportunity to improve someone's experience through the sales process? And what I always like to remember with this, because I know sometimes it can feel like, well, I don't have a team. I don't need to worry about this. And because I'm just the only one doing this. And what I would say is even if you don't have a team, right, you're still the person who it's probably even more important because you're the direct link for all of the service. It's that much easier to get burnt out as well with this. And so just revisiting like where are the easy places, right? A 1 or 2 degree shift with service can make an exponential increase in terms of client experience, what their results are, as well as your sustainability and profitability. And so just looking through, like maybe that means this time you revisit and you notice, oh, there's such an opportunity here to put another touch point in when I'm onboarding a new client or to send a gift, or there's an opportunity when we offboard clients for another touch point. And to see, this is something we can always be revisiting. It doesn't have to all be done at one stage, but we just don't want to lose sight of this. So keeping it a priority, but I find just practically set yourself a date in the calendar. I would say once every 6 months and just revisit this and look where are those opportunities. Hopefully that makes sense. I think we have a live stream on this and I will see if I can find that a link to that. The other piece here I put in the playbook, and we'll just touch on this really quickly, but this ties into service and value that I think is important to speak to because it also gets talked about in our online space and I think it's very confusing. I also like to think about service in terms of I'm showing up to serve all of you, right? And how can I serve first and ask for payment second? And I don't know who it is. There is someone in our space, the name will come to me. I'll think if anyone knows the name while I'm talking, you can put this in, but who essentially says, you want to give 10 times more value than the amount of money you want to make. And so if you want to make $1 million, are you giving 10 times that amount in value? If you want to make 100K, are you giving 10 times that amount in value? And I like to really think about that under the lens of service as well, right? Service isn't just about the people who are paying us money. Service is also about all of the people who aren't paying us money, who might never pay us money. and really thinking through the lens of, if I say I want to make a certain amount of business, how can I really put my money where my mouth is and be of service to my audience 10 times more than the amount I want to make, 10 times more than the amount I want to serve, and not from a place of burnout. This is not like more service, more value does not mean go do more and go burn out, right? It can be leveraging the things you already do. It can be like this live stream here. I think this is a great example. I don't have to hop on this, do this masterclass. Like, I'm blessed and fully booked. Like, it's because I want to be of service and support you all here. And so I think just seeing like how that can really be then in service of your service. And so this is not a recipe for like, now go burn out and do all the things. That's not what we're talking about. But it's just starting to think through that lens, and starting to think through the lens of how can I be of service before I ask for money can be a really powerful way to profit more. Because again, then it ties back to, we know all the stats practically around how service ties directly to your profitability and your sales, and not only creating a client, but retaining a client, and that word of mouth marketing. But it's also going to create a lot more ease for you, and it's going to help you attract more of the people who are a great fit for you. So there's some questions for you around that specifically in the playbook. And I think that can just be a really great thought exercise. Again, I really, really, really want to preface here, because I'm not going to be on the phone with all of you coaching you. This is not how do I 10 times the amount of work I'm doing and the number of hours I'm spending. How do I 10x that and burn out? That is like literally the opposite of what we're talking about. It's thinking through, what do I want to charge? What do I want to make? How much revenue do I want to bring in? How can I use this as a thought experiment to see where are the opportunities to deliver 10 times more value than what I'm asking for? Because that's going to put me into the action of being service oriented first, and knowing that when I do that, it is inevitable that clients will flow through. I hope that lands for y'all. We're gonna go on to the next pillar, but if you have a question, throw it at me. The next pillar we're gonna talk about is marketing. Y'all, I love marketing. I love marketing. I love supporting clients with marketing. I think marketing is such an important pillar in our business. I also think it's a really confused pillar in our business. Before I started business, I spent 10 years in the acting world, for those of you who don't know, and I spent a little time working in advertising as a director's rep, so basically an agent for directors. And when I thought about marketing, came into this space, I really thought you needed like an MBA to be a marketer, and that if you didn't, you must not know anything about marketing. It was like this really confusing thing. I thought it was like people who did marketing must like be super genius level, and like it was all these spreadsheets and confusing things. And it's really funny now that I'm in business, I'm like, oh, marketing's actually really simple. It's actually building relationships, starting relationships, building relationships. And it's actually something I've been doing my whole life in every industry. And I'm really good at it. And I didn't even realize that. So I say that because I think marketing gets very, very confused, and people like to sell confusion because then it seems sexier. And I want to offer marketing gets to be very simple. If you have an MBA, that is amazing. But if you don't have an MBA, you do not need an MBA to be a great marketer for your business. But I think what is really important to think about with marketing is it is a core pillar for your business foundation, for your profitability, for your sustainability. And I do think finding a way to market that feels good for you, that feels in alignment with your strengths and how you like to connect and communicate with people and build relationships is so important. And finding a way to love marketing is so important, because what I find can happen with marketing is people are sort of like, I hate marketing, so I'm just gonna do it until I make money, or I'm just gonna do it when I need to make money. And what I wanna offer is marketing is something that never goes away in a sustainable business if we wanna be profitable, right? Like if we think about the difference between having something that's a hobby, which absolutely okay, plenty of things I do that I love that I don't need to have as a business. But if I want to have something that's a business, the difference between my hobbies and my business is really that I'm marketing and selling the things in business, whereas my hobby, I am not. And some of my hobbies, I just frankly should not put a $ next to. Like, I like to cook, but no one should ever pay me for cooking. So there's that. But we're talking about the things you're good at and you can put a $ next to. And marketing really is so much of the lifeblood of your sales and what goes into sales. And again, I think we can just have such a funny relationship with it. So I would really invite everyone here, if you don't like marketing, to see, is there a way I can reframe marketing? I'm gonna give you my definition of it. So because it really isn't a nice to have, it really is something it's just always going to be a part of business. If we're going back to that CEO level thinking and that CEO mindset, if we're treating our business like a business and thinking about our business like a business. Again, I always like to zoom out, look at the Coca-Colas of the world, look at the Googles of the world, look at the Apples of the world, the really big companies, right? what are they doing? They're still marketing. They're still advertising. It's not like they became, I don't know, I have Apple stock. The stock market's down right now, but overall, my Apple stock like just keeps going up. It's not like because Apple is doing very well, they're like, well, we just don't market anymore. We're good. No, if anything, they double down and market even more. And so I think we can take, not that we need to become the Apples of the world, but I think we can just take some lessons looking at that and say, well, if that's true for them, it's probably true for us as business owners as well. But to really simplify, this is the Kim definition for marketing. You don't have to believe this, but this is really the way I think about marketing, just to simplify this. And I think it's the way in which we get visible and in front of new and existing people. It's how we show up, start conversations, continue conversations that are specifically directed around what it is we do, who we serve, the problem we solve, and the results we deliver, so that we can build up that know, like, and trust and lead someone down a path to sell with what we have to offer. So really it's getting visible and starting new relationships, nurturing existing relationships, having those conversations, being of service, sharing value like we talked about, but directly focused around a specific path to your offer. So the reason I say that is I think we can hear relationship building, connection is at the core of a successful business, and we can forget it's not just relationship building, it's really focused, intentional relationship building that's focused around the problems you solve, the results you deliver, who you serve, what your offer is, right? That is marketing. It's not, I mean, I have relationships, I say hi to the people at my coffee shop. It's not that I couldn't turn into a client, but for that to become marketing, I would need to focus those conversations around what it is I do, how I could help the person at the coffee shop with their side hustle and turn that into a business, right? Like I would need to center it around that goal. Otherwise, relationship building is amazing, but that wouldn't be considered marketing. So hopefully that makes sense, but hopefully that also simplifies what marketing is. And I'm gonna chat about my two favorite forms of marketing and how often to market, if that is helpful for y'all. Obviously, there are plenty of ways you can market. And what I really wanna invite everyone to think about here is how can I think about what is the way I like to connect with people? What is the way I like to get visible and in front of you people, build relationships with people, share value around my offer? I get to find what works for me. And then I really want to invite everyone here, once you identify that, to think that my job is to pick something and stick with it and let this work for me in business, and to see that when I'm at the start of my business and I'm looking to get fully booked or launch my first course or become profitable, honestly, probably 80% of your time is going to be spent on marketing. And I think that is such a mindfuck to people, because I think we think, no, all of my time should be spent learning and watching webinars and learning how to be a better business owner, or learning 80% of your time should be spent marketing, right? Because this is where you get in front of new people and you connect with them and you build relationships and you sell your offer. So really like seeing like this, it's such a big bulk of your time, and that's doing it right. I think sometimes people are like, wait, I'm spending so much time marketing. Why? And I want to say that is doing it right. And then you're going to get to a place where that time is going to flip, right? You're going to fill up with clients. You're not going to be able to spend most of your time marketing. When that is the case, marketing is still really crucial. We don't want to drop the marketing ball. We don't want to just show up. I was talking about this with a client today. We don't want to just show up when we need to make money. It's sort of like the friend who like only shows up when they need your support with something and they need help, or like only when they're single, not when they're in a relationship. We don't want to do that in marketing. It doesn't really work well in friendships. It doesn't work so well. We could use that as a dating analogy too, but it probably would get a little R-rated. Just doesn't serve you in business or your profitability. But as you're growing and you're serving your clients more, going back to the service pillar, that's just where we're going to probably shift to either how are we spending a little less time maybe on the relationship building, or are we bringing on team to outsource and delegate some of this, not how do we get rid of marketing. And let me know if you have questions around any of that. The two forms of marketing, and I'm just going to go through these real quickly, but I think just so your brains can think about like, what is marketing? Obviously, there are lots of forms of marketing. Again, there's no one size fits all. You get to see how this applies for you. I have clients who are doing all sorts of forms of marketing, but my two personal favorites is content marketing, which is what we're doing here, right? It is attraction marketing. It is the service-based approach of I'm going to show up and serve. I'm going to share valuable content. I'm going to build relationships that way. That is the vehicle I'm going to use. It's generally an organic marketing strategy, which I really like. And I have found it is, I mean, we've never spent a cent on ads in my business, and we have a multi-six-figure business. I have clients who have $1 million plus businesses who have never spent a dime on ads. I think that's the beauty of content marketing. It does require a little more work. It is also not the right marketing strategy for every business owner. And so I think that feels really important. Like, I love this, and I have clients who I don't suggest to do content. So I think knowing that, what I would just say for you is just seeing, does this make sense for your business? Are you in a place, is this a way you like to show up? Is this a strength of yours? But I also think checking in with, what do you sell? So a lot of times, for example, my VAs, my OBMs, it may or may not make sense for you to really focus heavily on a content marketing strategy, because that's not necessarily the vehicle you need to use to build up thought leadership and to build up a know, like, and trust, because it's not as congruent to the work you do. So I always like to think through with content marketing, is this congruent in some way to what you're selling? If so, it probably makes sense. Is it also congruent to the way you really thrive and show up and build relationships? If so, I'm just sharing these. I'm on a stats roll today, but I do think this is helpful to hear. 47% of buyers viewed 3 to 5 pieces of content before engaging with a sales rep. And then another stat here was content marketing gets 3 times more leads than paid search advertising. So I do think, for those of you who are like, I don't know about content, is it worth all the effort? Just to give you some evidence, for those of you whose businesses where that makes sense, I think it can be really, really valuable and really bring an exponential ROI in terms of results and that profitability. But again, I have a client who's also a coach who hates creating content and got fully booked and making, I don't know, like a $27K month without creating content. We're just getting to the content phase. So just to give you some context there, it is not the only way. My other favorite form of marketing that I find works really well, particularly for this group, because you're service-based providers, for the majority of you are, is really what I consider connection-based marketing, which is relationship building, but again, focused around a goal. And that would be going to your networking events. That would be, engaging in your Facebook groups, having calls with people. So it's not going out and creating a ton of content, but it is really focused on connection building, relationship building. Again, this is organic. It usually is a little more work than just throwing money at ads, but I find that works really, really well, particularly for most of you who are in this space. And that would be my other favorite form of organic marketing. So sharing that just so that you can kind of start to think about, what is the way I like to show up? What's the way I like to get visible? What's the way I like to start new relationships, build on those relationships, nurture those relationships around my offer? And what I would then see is, can you pick something and can you really stick with being consistent for at least 90 days before you jump ship on your marketing strategy? Seeing, probably going to want to spend the bulk of your time at the start of your business on your marketing. And then as you grow, looking at, okay, this time's going to flip-flop, and how are we still keeping this marketing wheel going? Just seeing the time. Share one more quick thought with marketing that I like to play with. Then within that, when you're mapping out your plan, so let's say it is it's connection based, and it's gonna be more networking and getting on the phone with people. I like to come up with, I do this with my clients, we come up with their non-negotiables, their daily, weekly, monthly non-negotiables, in terms of what are they showing up for in their marketing plan and strategy. And I think that can be a really great way for you, whatever that is, to map this out. So you start to see, you don't have that decision fatigue around what am I actually doing now? You start to say, oh, this is super simple. These are the things I'm gonna show up for. This is the plan I'm gonna spend my time on. And then I know if I show up for this, this is gonna be supporting this pillar in my business. So then I don't have a problem to solve here. All right, I just threw that in there, so I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you have a question. Otherwise, I feel like I'm speed talking to y'all today, because I want to make sure we get all of these in. But I'm going to hop on to the next pillar. Let me know, though, questions. Let me know if this is valuable, because I know I'm throwing a lot at you. If you have questions at all, please. I appreciate feedback, and I want to make sure you're getting what you need from this. And I need a sip of water. I always turn red on these, y'all. I don't know if it's the ring light or what, but I always get a little flush when we're live. Not nerves though. At this point, it used to be nerves, but at this point, I think it's more just the ring light. But yeah, I'm pink. Okay, so our fourth pillar here is sales. Oh, sales. I would love to know from someone how you feel about selling, how you feel about sales. I think it's really such an interesting pillar. And this is kind of like the marketing pillar, right? Without marketing and sales, we kind of just have a hobby, nothing wrong with hobbies, but if we want something to be a business, if we're showing up like a CEO, have that CEO identity, thinking like a CEO, marketing and sales, they're kind of like peanut butter and jelly. That is really more of the forward-facing practical strategy that is where our profit comes from. So we've been talking about some of the mindset side of things. This is more the practical strategy side of where your profit and your business comes from. And I find people have such a love-hate with sales. I find a lot of the people who come to me, it's probably, aside from mindset, probably the biggest thing I support them with. And I think there can just be so much noise around selling being yucky or icky or sleazy, or almost like, how can we avoid sales? I have definitely shared this before, but I will share with you just to normalize when I started my business. So I've always been really, really good at sales, but I've always been good at sales and selling other people's work. So I worked in the restaurant industry. I worked as an actress. I guess that was selling my work, but I had lines I got to hide behind. When I was in advertising, I was selling directors. And when I got into my business, I was like, oh, isn't this fascinating? I can sell all over the place here, but I do not want to sell my own work. And it was probably the biggest hurdle for me in my first year of business. I think I didn't send a single sales email my first year in business because I was just so scared of sales and had a lot of noise around that. So I say that to normalize and to say, from a lot of heart-centered, caring people, this can be a really big opportunity, a pillar that might need a little bit more love. And if you're like, oh, I hadn't even thought about sales that much, or I don't even know the last time, this is a great question. Ask yourself, when was the last time I sold or took a sales action? And if you don't know the answer to that, this is probably the pillar of yours that has the biggest opportunity for growth. It's not a bad thing. That's a really great thing, because then you know the place to focus on in your business, the pillar to focus on. So with sales, I have a quote from Daniel Pink. Daniel Pink has a great book called To Sell is Human. If you have not read it, I highly recommend it. He does a great job of normalizing sales and seeing how we're selling all day in our everyday life. Highly, highly recommend the book, but I'm going to read a quote from him because I think this is just a great context for how we can think about selling in our businesses, which is, to sell well is to convince someone else to part with resources, not to deprive that person, but to leave him better off in the end. So we would say him or her here, or they. But yes, when we're selling, we're helping them to part with resources, but to leave them better off in the end, not to deprive them. And I have a whole sales course on selling out without feeling like a sellout, and I call it taking a heart-centered approach to sales and selling from a service-based place. And our whole philosophy there is selling is all about helping someone to get clear on what it is they want, and then to make a decision to move towards what it is they want. Meaning, do they want what you have to offer? Yes or no? If they don't, we help them to make a decision to say no. If they do, we help them to make a decision to say yes. That is all sales is. And I think that can be a very neutral lens, but also it can take some of the noise that can have us think sales is manipulative. Sales has us take something away from someone else. Sales is yucky. It's not okay to sell. I think it can help neutralize some of that noise. But if you do have some noise coming up around sales, I would say that's a great opportunity. Go brain dump. What are all the stories you have around selling? Because that's probably going to be your first step with getting acquainted with this pillar, is how can we reframe and start to have a more neutral or loving relationship with selling? And again, super normal. This is probably one of the biggest conversations I have with clients. So couple things I was going to share with you on sales, because obviously we're not going to go into our sales process and all of that here. I have a course on that. That's what I help clients with. It's just too much to put into a 90-minute training. But I think giving you kind of what we're talking about, like, how can I think about this like a business owner and see this as a pillar and identify if this is a pillar I have an opportunity around? I think the first place, again, is checking in with, when was the last time you sold? And if you don't know the answer to that, knowing this is probably the, in air quotes, problem, my opportunity. Then checking in with, how do I feel about selling? Do I have resistance? Do I feel activated, right? We get to go back to the mindset pillar then, right? Step one, if I feel activated, if I feel triggered, step one is, how do I get to neutral around selling? So that's where maybe we're drilling down on what are some of those stories so that you can rewrite those. I find two mindsets that we talk about this in the course, but just kind of short version here, that I find are really important to selling in a way that feels good, that allows you to sell and keep clients, right? That's some of the service-based we were talking about in the other pillar. is one, starting to see that sales are not sleazy. Sales can be a really beautiful, transformative of service act. I really, truly believe this, that sales are of service, and it is where the transformation starts. It's at the point of that transaction. And the way I see it is, if I have a service that I know can help you, that I know can support you, that I know can solve your problem, it is a service for me to offer that to you. If you are super thirsty, and I have water, isn't it of service for me to offer you water? Isn't it kind of screwed up if you are dying of thirst and I have like 16 bottles of water here for me to be like, oh, they might think this is really mean of me and sleazy of me and manipulative of me because they really need this water and I'm gonna offer it to them. I better not offer them the water, right? Like that would actually be really screwed up and kind of messed up and really not of service at all. And so I really see it of an act of service. And I really see that we are selling to, we get to sell to humans who are empowered to make their own decision. And we sell from a place of service, and we sell from a place of empowering the person in front of us to make their own decision, right? The definition we talked about earlier, helping someone get clear on what it is they wanted to make that decision. We can't manipulate someone into taking that bottle of water. We can't take advantage of someone. All we can do is empower them to make a decision that serves them. If that happens to be to buy a bottle of water or to take the bottle of water because that serves them, then that is actually of service. And the point of transformation starts the moment they make that decision to invest in the bottle of water, right? That's as soon as they start to get their thirst quenched. I'm making this example up on the spot, so hopefully this example makes sense. I think it makes sense, obviously, in our businesses a little bit more, right? The point of, I think it's also that point of being able to make that decision. I think about a big coaching investment and how much we have to overcome in ourselves to first make that bet on ourselves, right? When I first invested in my coach, I had to overcome so much of my own BS because I couldn't afford her at the time. I literally didn't have the money. I had to figure that out. I had to get resourceful, and I had to really believe in my business at a different level. There was so much transformation in making that decision by the time I invested, right? Like that was a big act of betting on myself and where some of the transformation started. And so I think just starting to take that mindset can really support you in sales. And then the other piece here with sales, so there's sort of that like believing in sales as service and as a transformative act, and then also believing in what it is you're selling more than the person you're selling to. It's really hard to sell something to someone else if you believe in it less than they do, right? It's sort of like the number, like any sales course you ever take, sales one-on-one, is you have to believe in what it is you're selling, and you have to believe in it more than the person you're selling to, right? Otherwise, it's really hard to sell them on it. And I think what happens for so many people is we're not fully believing in our own work. We're not fully believing in our own ability or our own business. So we're selling from the place of, I hope if you buy from me, you will give me my self-esteem. You will tell me this is finally worth it. You will tell me my business will succeed. You will tell me I'm good enough. We're kind of selling from this place of, I hope I'm good enough, and I hope you will buy and prove that to me. And that's really a challenging place to sell from, like a really hard place to sell from. It also has us outsource all of our power, which is what we never want to do in business, right? We want to be able to take all of our power. But really, if we think again back to being of service and this definition of sales, our definition of sales is really supporting the person in front of us to get clear and to make that decision. It's really hard to support someone to make a decision if part of where we're coming from is, I don't feel good enough. I don't even know if you should do this. I actually think this is kind of a bad idea, but maybe you'll say yes and pay me, and then I'll finally know that I'm good at what I do. Right? That's a really tough place to support someone from, which is why it's like so nice how this like works out so perfectly. If that's how we're feeling, we get to notice, oh, I have something going on with how I believe about my offer. I am activated. I am charged. Let me go back to the first pillar, mindset. What do I need to do here to get to neutral, to get my mindset, to manage my mind, to manage my nervous system so that I can then come back to this pillar and sell from that place? So I would say those are two mindsets I would offer. I would invite you to play with and just to notice, where are your opportunities to lean into those beliefs? Where do those feel sticky? Where maybe are some of the fears to unpack? What is the mindset work you can do there? So that's kind of on the mindset level. And then on the really practical level, we were talking about, how often are you selling? When was the last time you sold? And what I would say for pretty much everyone, I would cross the board. I've yet to really have someone get on a call with me where it's like, I'm like, oh, you're selling too much. You need to pull back on sales. For the most part, I find if you're not making the sales you want in business, you're probably simply like at least one of the ingredients there is you're probably not selling enough. And you probably have an opportunity to increase literally just the amount of times you are selling and making offers. And I think that's just like such a beautiful hack. Wait, if I'm not making the sales I want, the way I can sell more is to literally sell more and make more offers. And so I just get to look at how often am I making offers? How often am I selling? If I don't even know the answer to that, there's your answer of one of the first steps you get to do. If that feels really scary and activating, I know the thing I need to work on is pillar one, my mindset. After I'm at neutral and I've managed my mind, I need to go back to the practical strategy here, which is how do I show up and sell more? Hopefully that makes sense in terms of kind of that process there and kind of seeing if that's the challenge, the problem in your business to solve. With this, I really like to think about sales in two ways. I'm just looking at the time. Okay, we're good on time. I said we'd be 90 minutes. We're at an hour. We've got 30 more minutes. I'm going to give you a little bit here on sales, and we've only got 2 pillars left then. With sales, what I'll offer here that I find really helpful to think about in terms of how much you're selling, I really like to think about sales. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone talk about it this way. This is a Kim definition, but it works really well for me and it works really well for my clients. I like to think about sales as active and passive sales. Active sales meaning I am actively showing up and making an offer. At the end of this live stream, I'm going to tell you how amazing I am because I'm great at what I do, and I'm going to tell you about the opportunities. I'm going to sell to you and tell you about the opportunities to work with me, right? That is an active sales action. And there's passive sales. Passive sales would be more like I'm showing up on this live stream. If I didn't sell at the end, this content would be passive selling because I am showing up, I'm delivering that value, I'm making that connection with you, I'm doing an action that is linked to sales. I am selling my work through this live stream. I'm telling you about what I do, how I support clients, right? I'm passively selling through this live stream. When I share a piece of content, that is a passive sales action. I think a lot of your marketing could be considered a passive sales action. What I think is we really need both passive sales and active sales. We've talked a lot about pendulum swinging today on today's live stream. I think it can be really easy to have the pendulum swing, right? We only passively sell, and then we're like, well, how come no one's hiring me? How come no one's working with me? When we're only passively selling, if I only showed up and shared content all the time and I never made a clear offer, it's so much work for you to figure out how I can support you, what my offer is, what the next step for you is, right? I'm putting a lot of responsibility on you to figure out that next step. It's a really long walk for our turkey sandwich. I'm so sorry for the noise in the background. My husband is cooking and he's listening to earplugs and has no idea, what the cooking noises are doing. So I apologize, y'all. But I don't apologize because that means I'm gonna have a really yummy dinner after this because he's cooking for us. But with that, just seeing if I'm just passively selling, right? If I'm just writing beautiful content, this is what I did my whole first year in business. I contented my face off. I've been active. I've been passively selling from day one. We have shared a content post every single day in my business for almost 6 years. And I was blogging regularly. We were doing all things, but I wasn't actively selling. And so I did book clients, but it was so much harder for them to book me because they had a lot of work to figure out what that next step was. They had to go find my website, find the link, find the booking link, figure out even what I did, right? That's a lot to put on your audience. On the other side though, right? If we're just actively selling, hire me, buy from me, book now, book this call, you should pay me, right? We've seen the people who just like spam the Facebook groups, right? Anyone else seen that, right? Like they just jump in the Facebook group and they just like spam with the offer. And they're like, I'm selling, how come no one's buying? I'm sure that the spray and pray approach works in some degree, but you have to spray and pray a lot to catch a client, right? There's nothing underneath that. And so we really want to find that combination of passive sales with the active sales. My guess for this group is you probably have more of the passive sales down, but not the active sales. I'm guessing just because that's more generally the case for my clients. But if you don't have any of the passive sales, right, we need both. This is not an argument to say now just go send your email list 14 sales emails without any of the relationship building part to it. Absolutely not. We want to have both. So that's how I think about passive sales, active sales. I like to get really clear on what's a list of both and seeing how am I taking sales actions every day in my business and ensuring that for as much as there are passive sales actions happening every day, there are also active sales happening every day. And just a reminder, if you want to sell more, literally just sell more. Okay, hopefully that is helpful there. There's a couple questions for you in the playbook around that so that you can just kind of look at those two sides so you can see where your opportunities are for your own business. Okay, how y'all doing? questions for me? For those of you still live now, thank you. I know this is a longer one. For those of you on the replay as well, if you need to hit pause, we've got 2 pillars left. Absolutely no problem. Go grab a water, all of that. We're going to finish these out. But if you have questions, please, please, please. I always want to make sure, because I know we're cramming a lot into this training. The rest of ours this year won't be quite so content heavy. So I do want to make sure if you have questions, you let me know them so that you're taking away what you need here. Okay, so our 5th pillar, I'm just going to grab a quick sip of water. Thank you very much. Okay, our 5th pillar here is systems and processes. I'm going to share another quote for you. This is in the playbook as well, but I think it's just so great. Systems and processes will always surpass motivation. This is from Chris Matakas. Okay, so I think this is so helpful to hear. I wanted to start with that quote because I think so often we think we have a motivation problem in business, we have a willpower problem in business, we have a consistency problem, and yes, while sometimes there is mindset involved and sometimes there is something we need to address there, so often what also is lacking is a focus on systems and processes. And this is another one of those pillars, even if you don't have a team, this applies to you. I think sometimes we hear systems and processes and think this only matters if you have a team, that this is only something, like if you're outsourcing that you need to have for your team members. But even if you're a team of 1, if you're a solo entrepreneur, systems and processes are still really, really going to serve you in your business. And they're such a core pillar in your business that allow for ease, that allow you to avoid burnout, that allow you to get more efficient, that allow you to create capacity to scale, that allow you to profit. And so I think this is a great place to see so often we really and truly don't have motivation problems. There's usually something else at play. So with systems and processes, I think I'm just gonna do like a really short kind of mini lesson on this. We have an upcoming podcast episode around this as well. But I think first is seeing pretty much anything you do in your business that you're doing more than once, you can put a system and a process around it. And even if you're the only one who's ever going to do it, that's going to be valuable for you because it's going to make you more efficient. It's going to keep you out of decision fatigue. It's going to keep you from reinventing the wheel. It's going to help you see where the opportunities are to improve your systems and processes. And it's going to allow you to free up brain space so you're not thinking about all of these steps. So you can focus on the things in your business that do drive profit, that do allow you to bring in sales, that do allow you to serve your clients, that come up with ideas to innovate. So I'm going to use a really simple example here though, for you all. So like if we just we were talking about onboarding earlier. If we take the example of you've just booked a new client, right? You're the only one who's going to talk with them. You don't have a team. All we're thinking about is onboarding a client. Even with onboarding a client or going through a sales process, right? You probably have things you do for every client. But if we're not clear on, okay, so first I get the form they're going to sign, I get the contract, I have them do the PayPal, then we have set them up in the system, then we send a client gift, then maybe I check in 3 months, I'm making this up. Then when they wrap up, we send an offboarding email to let them know how we're going to close out and how we're going to get testimonials. I'm kind of going through maybe onboarding, offboarding there. Even if like those are the steps you do, if you can get clear on that and identify those and put that into a system and process for you, you can start to look at where can I automate some of this? When I do have team, maybe where can I delegate some of this? When I'm getting really fully booked, I can start to see, I don't have to think through this. I can just see these are the things I need to do. So I'm making sure they happen every time in my business. So I want you to see how like literally everything you do, even if, again, if you don't have team, you're gonna have systems and processes around it. Following up with a client, right? Do you have a system and process for how you follow up with potential clients? It's such a simple step in your business, but if you don't have a system or process around it, it's much more likely you're not going to do it, or you're not always going to do it, or you're going to get in your head, right? Go back to pillar 1, mindset, and you're not going to follow through with it consistently. Whereas if you put a system and a process around it, it's so much more likely you're going to stay out of your head, out of your own way, be able to follow through and execute and get the results from that process. I think follow-ups are actually a great example of this because these follow-ups are one of the biggest places I see clients spin out in their sales process. And what we like to do is put a process around that, because then when you have a process, it's a lot more separated from you. It's more like, this is just what we do in the business. This is how we follow up in the business. I just need to follow these steps, instead of should I follow up? Should I not follow up? How do I feel about following up? How do they feel about me, right? Instead of letting all the mindset drama get in the place or the decision fatigue get in the way of executing, which not only slows down your profitability or your potential for growth, but it can also help you literally suck energy and time out of your business. So hopefully that makes sense. I think we could kind of like turn this into its own lesson, but I think just seeing how, again, even if you don't have a team, this is just going to serve you so much. And again, staying out of your own head and being able to execute and really follow through with what you need to do to be able to profit in your business. What I find can be really helpful if you're sort of like, okay, so where should I like set up systems and processes? A couple just easy tips here. One, just start and don't worry about having the most perfect processes. We're still refining processes in my business. We have a couple, I have team to support me with this, right? We're still refining and updating those. So that is normal, that's okay. And these tend to be living, breathing things that change as your business grows. That's okay as well. But just start to think through these things and just start where you can, whether it's creating a Google document or creating a Loom if it's for a team member. But start to map these things out. And what I think is really helpful is to start to look through what are the things you do repeatedly in your business, like maybe following up in your sales process or onboarding clients, and breaking that down into steps so you can start to, again, remove the decision fatigue and see how can I make this a repeatable process? How can I put a system around this? And letting it be that simple. Just trying to see here if that... The other note I have here that I always like to think with too is, and what's the easiest way to do this? So I think we like to overcomplicate things as business owners, especially if you're a high achiever, right? And sometimes we think more is more and more is not more. So one of the opportunities with creating a system and a process is also looking for opportunities for efficiency. And so I think what's nice is when you can just kind of walk through, like, these are the literal steps I take. When I go live, I put in a title in the Facebook group. I hit the live button. Afterwards, I take this live stream and my team is going to take it and they're going to download it and upload it to YouTube. And then we send an email next week with the replay. Let's say that's the process, right? If I can make it as simple as possible, we'll walk through every single step. I then get to go back through and see, is this the easiest way I can do this? Is there an easier way to do this? Is there any fluff here that I can take out to make this more efficient? So hopefully that makes sense for y'all. But I think that's always a beautiful opportunity with systems and processes as well. We always see places where like, oh, I can refine this. I can make this a little more efficient. I can make this a little easier on myself or on team. And then the more you can stick with your systems and processes, again, the more they're going to become well-oiled in your business, which is going to allow for a larger profit margin if you have a team, right? Because they're just going to get more and more efficient instead of constantly having to reinvent the wheel or learn something new or figure out a different way to do something, which will cost your business so much money. But even if it's you and you don't have a team, it's going to allow you to be more efficient, which is going to increase your profitability because it's going to take you less time, and your time is worth money. It's going to take you less time and effort to be able to bring in profit in your business, and things are going to start to feel a lot easier and you're going to be able to get them done in less time. Okay. Did I say we had 2 pillars last? We now have 2 pillars left. So our 6th pillar is support and team. I'm gonna read another quote here for you. No one succeeds alone and no one fails alone. Pay attention to the people around you. This is by Gary Keller. I feel like we've been talking about this a lot in this group, and I did a year-end review on my numbers in the business, and we talked a lot about team. And I think this is one of those pillars. It's almost like pendulum can swing again, but I think particularly for this space, it can feel so much like either you have to be an island and do things on your own, and there's like a pride in that, or I think the other story that can come up is that you're supposed to wait until you have certain results to bring on support. And what I really want to invite you to think about with this pillar is that it is a pillar. It is a pillar for your success. It holds up your business foundation. Meaning if we're waiting until there are results in the business, you're going to have a lopsided business foundation in business, right? We want to start thinking about this from as we're building these pillars and seeing this is a pillar that supports your whole business. And this doesn't mean you have to go and get the most expensive support ever or invest in the most expensive software, bring on all the team at the start, but it generally does mean looking at where is the opportunity for me to bring on support? Where do I need support? Where is support going to help me with my other pillars? Because if I'm trying to do this solo, it's really going to be challenging for me. I always say no one creates success alone. And if we look at any business outside of our online space and we look at what makes a business successful, they're investing in support from the get-go. If we look at startups, right, they're investing an exponential amount of support in bringing on employees so that the business actually has an opportunity to generate profit. They don't wait until they have profit to bring on employees, or they would never be able to profit. That startup would never be able to make it. If I open up a restaurant tomorrow, right, I don't wait until we have customers sitting at the table to bring on staff or to bring on support, right? I have to have support at the beginning, or I'm never gonna have a chance to create a profit. I think our online space is the only place where we are almost like, let me wait till I have a profit to bring on support, but we don't realize support is often the very thing that allows us to profit. I'm obviously biased, and I think coaching support is, for me, it's been the biggest game changer, and it's what I think is really invaluable, but that's not always the right support, right? Like, I think what we want to look at here is we're going through all the pillars. What I would say is look at which pillar of yours is maybe the weakest, it's feeling not the strongest, and is there an opportunity to get support with that pillar, right? If marketing and showing up to market consistently is your weakest pillar, and you know that's also your biggest opportunity to bring in profit if you do it consistently, maybe the opportunity for you is to bring on a VA who can support you with some engagement or showing up and sharing content consistently for you, right? And you can see how, okay, I look at these pillars, these are all the pillars of my business. I want to solve the right problem. The right problem isn't that I'm on the wrong platform or am I on the right platform. The problem is I'm not showing up consistently and doing enough marketing, not from a place of burning out, but from a place of I need this marketing to be able to sell, to be able to bring in profit into my business. I physically can't do any more of this myself, or this isn't my zone of genius, or I'm working a 9-to-5 job, right? Maybe the opportunity for me is to invest in support there. So that's happening. That's probably what my business needs. But this kind of goes back to our first pillar around, yes, being a CEO and having a CEO identity, but also thinking like a business owner. And a business owner thinks through the lens of, what does my business need to profit? How can I make sure I'm investing in that upfront, knowing that that's going to give me an ROI? The way we get results in business is we invest time, energy, resources first, then we get a result. It is not we get a result and then we invest time, resources, energy. And just starting to think that way through your business and seeing, where are my opportunities? Not how do I throw money at a problem? That's not what we're talking about. And this is not a pitch to say like everyone now invest in high ticket coaching. Not what we're talking about either. We're talking about solving the right problem. What's the pillar that needs support? And seeing that, generally speaking, we want to invest in that support, invest in what we need, and take the action. That's going to precede that ROI, which is where your profit is. And just starting to look at businesses outside this space and seeing that's what every single business that is profitable is doing, for a reason, because that's what is required to generate profit. So not only does no one do it alone, I'm the first person to say, I do not do this alone. I have a coach, I have a therapist, I have a team, I have an OBM, I have VAs, right? I have a ton of support. I have my husband who's making dinner in the other room and a lot of noise, right? I have a lot of support. I have support for all of those other pillars we're talking about, but I'm investing in that support, and I had to invest in that. I think sometimes we also, it's like, oh, it's easy for you to say, Cam, you have a multi-6-figure business, you're booked out. Of course you do. And yes, I invest more now that I have more profit to invest with, but part of the reason I have that profit in my business to invest in more support is because I started investing in support before I had the profit, so I could make the profit. So I think that's just a really important thing to think through the lens of, to think through this as a business owner. And again, start small. This does not mean if you don't have the resources to invest in team, or if it doesn't make sense for you to invest in team. Kim said, invest first. That's what's going to create profit. Go hire a marketing agency and a VA and all these people and throw all of your money into support. That's not at all what I'm saying. It's looking at which pillar actually needs support. Where could I use some support? Is it going to be beneficial? Can I think through this like a business owner? If I invest in that support, is that going to help me be profitable? Am I going to get a return from that? That's more the way I want you to think about this. And getting creative too, right? It might mean we're going to talk about the last pillar, which includes time in a moment. Maybe your biggest pillar that needs support is your time, which might mean maybe you invest in something like having your groceries delivered, or having your apartment cleaned, or having someone watch your kids so that you can buy back your time. So you're going to invest in that pillar, right? In this pillar that needs support so that you can profit in your business. So I hope that makes sense with the support and team place. And just seeing it doesn't have to look just like having a massive team. You might not want a big team. That is okay. That's not what this is about either. But just seeing, am I trying to be an island? Am I trying to be an island and do this alone? Because I think there's also such a mindset component with support where so many of us do resist support or think I'm supposed to do it alone, or this proves I'm a good business owner, or this proves I'm good enough, or this proves I don't need any help. And I just want to keep saying that's just so not how success is created. If you look outside of our industry, look outside of business, I think sports is such a great example. Anyone who's at the top of their game in sports, or I'm an ex-actress, look at the entertainment world. Anyone who's at the top of their game in the entertainment world, no one gets to the top of their game without support. It is not a part of pride to say, I did this on my own, I got here on my own. That is just, what's it like, biting your nose and biting off your nose in spite of your face. I don't know even what the saying is, but it literally doesn't serve you or your business. It's a really great way to sabotage your success. Instead of seeing, how can I really open up my capacity to receive support? How can I see that as CEO level thinking? How can I do my mindset work to allow that to be okay? I know it can be super stretchy. I've had to stretch a lot. Most of us are control freaks, right? Like I've had to stretch a lot around my capacity to receive support, but really starting to see that no one does it alone. The degree to which I can stretch my capacity to receive support is the degree to which I can scale, grow my business to support others. If I think about how many clients I support and the support I want to give here, I can't do that if I'm also not being held up. If we think about the pillars, right, we're talking about, your business foundation can't be supported unless it has all of those 7 pillars. You can't be supported if you're also not having those pillars supported and getting the support you need. Okay, so it is not only okay, I would see this as really such an ingredient for thinking like a CEO, treating your business like a business, and really what helps you to profit in your business. Okay, last one here, pillar 7. Kind of this is like our hodgepodge one. I'm calling this time, peace, and joy. And I know they're not all exactly the same thing, but I think they're all interconnected. And I think this is so easy on this one to almost eye roll me and think like, okay, I'm gonna worry about this after I make money in my business, Kim, after I profit. I'll worry about my time and I'll worry about my joy and I'll worry about my peace. And or to only focus on this and then forget about the 6 other pillars, right? Where it's like, I'm just gonna focus on peace, joy, and time, pendulum swings, and forget that there are 6 other pillars that go into profit. But I want to explain how this pillar is just as important as your marketing or as your sales or as your service for profiting in your business and doing so in a way where you're not sacrificing your values or sanity, and seeing how if you can profit in a way where you are maintaining your time and your joy and your peace, that's what allows you to sustain success. It is one thing to make money once in business, right? It is one thing to crash and burn and to be a one-hit wonder in the online space. We have all seen this. We have seen people, bless their hearts, who come into the online space, made a bunch of money, and then you're like, what happened to them? Where did they go? We don't want that for you. We want you to be if this is work you love, which I assume it is, I want you to be in business for a long time, not profiting once, but profiting over and over and over again and having something that's sustainable. This pillar is what allows this to be sustainable. I would also argue, honestly, it's really challenging to create profit at all if you're miserable and if you're not feeling peaceful and if you're not managing your time. There is only so much you can work. If you're not prioritizing your peace, remember I said at the beginning, the degree to which you can profit is directly correlated to the degree to which you are prioritizing your peace and regulating your nervous system. If you're not regulating your nervous system, not prioritizing your peace, not prioritizing your mindset, and you can't manage your mind, it's actually really, really challenging to create a profit in business. If you're not prioritizing joy, subconsciously at a certain point, your brain is going to say, I am going to sabotage this business because there is nothing I actually want on the other side of this action. Our brain, our subconscious mind runs the show 95 to 99% of the time. And if you have a subconscious link that this just isn't fucking worth it, there is no joy in this, your subconscious mind, it will do everything it can and be like, how come people keep canceling on me? How come I keep getting no-shows? How come I keep getting refund requests? How come people keep telling me I can't afford this? How come people keep not wanting to buy from me? And not saying that is always the case. There can be lots of factors, right? We want to solve the right problem, but there could be a chance that it's because subconsciously you don't want what's on the other side of making money because your brain has equated that to misery and to not being enjoyable and to just being kind of such a grind. This this is something I support so many of my clients who are scaling with, because it's such an easy trap to get into. So I think just really seeing that this is as an important pillar. And I love what Denise Duffield Thomas says. She talks about how you're the golden goose in your business that lays the golden eggs. So we have to take care of the golden goose that lays the golden eggs. Otherwise, if you don't take care of the golden goose and you kill the golden goose, who's going to lay the golden eggs in your business? No one else can, right? No matter how amazing your team is, if you're fried out, if you're sabotaging everything because you're miserable, if you can't regulate your nervous system, if you're feeling super fried and burnt out, if you're mismanaging your time or you feel like you don't have control over it, it doesn't matter what your team can do. It's gonna be really, really hard to continue to sustain your business and keep having profit. So not to create like a doomsday story, but I want us to see how this is equally as important as some of the practical strategy stuff and how this is still directly tied to the profit in your business. I've been on a quotes kick. So I'm gonna read a quote to you from Mark Cuban. If you don't know who he is, go look him up. He's a brilliant, very successful, very financially successful as well business owner who also does a lot of really good things in the world. So I really appreciate his approach to business and to kind of philanthropy and service. And he says, time is the most valuable asset you don't own. You may not realize it yet, but how you use or don't use your time is going to be the best indication of where your future is going to take you. I'm going to repeat that because he says this better than I'm going to. Time is the most valuable asset you don't own. That is the first piece. You don't own your time. It's the most valuable asset. It's non-renewable. We don't own it. And he says, you may not realize it yet, but how you use or don't use your time is going to be the best indication of where your future is going to take you. So part of the reason our time pillar here is not just like time, relaxing time, but also how are you spending your time in your business as a CEO, thinking about your time as a CEO, keep talking about thinking like a CEO, is looking at your time like a valuable asset you don't own and really being clear and intentional with how you spend your time. One of the things I really focus on is I am so intentional with where my time goes in my business, because I know not only do I not own my time and it's super valuable, I also know my time is my money. And if I mismanage and misuse my time, not only is it that correlated to with my joy and my quality of life, but that's also directly correlated to the profit in my business. And I think what happens so often is we almost think like we have all the time in the world or that doesn't matter. But if you're thinking like a CEO, I really want you to start thinking, when I mismanage, when I misuse my time, when I don't hold boundaries around my time, it is like taking stacks of money and lighting them on fire. And stacks of money that I don't even own yet, right? It's like getting in debt with it. It's like, it's like such a crucial part of your business. And if this weren't the case, we also wouldn't want to outsource things and delegate things and automate things. So I think we can see so many examples of how time is so valuable, but I think it's also one of the easiest things to mismanage and to misuse because of things like instant gratification, because of things like fear, because of our pillar one, everything around the mindset piece, and because of a lack of clarity. We talked about this on last week's live stream, so I won't talk about it too much here, but we talked about time tracking. And I do this religiously in my business because I think it's also so easy just to lie to ourselves and not even be clear where our time is going. What gets measured, this is where we're talking about like being sure we're measuring the right metrics, because that's going to reinforce the behavior we want. We want to make sure we're reinforcing the right behavior. Time tracking is a really valuable way to see what are we actually spending time on? What are we actually prioritizing? You show me where you're spending your time, I will tell you what you're actually prioritizing, not what you say is important to you. And so often I think in business, when we're not making the profit we want, it's because we're saying profit is important, but we're not actually prioritizing profit. We're not actually prioritizing the pillars and the tasks that create profit. We're just saying we want profit. And so it can be a bit of a truth serum to time track, but I think that can be really helpful. And if your priorities on your time tracking sheet don't match profitability, don't match the things that you value, that's such great awareness, because then you can see the opportunity for where you need to shift, what pillars you need to focus on, or what other adjustments you need to make. Right? I think, and then this kind of goes back to what we were talking about in terms of being really mindful then of what we're measuring as well, and making sure we're measuring the things that matter in your business in terms of that time tracking. Time tracking is not about how do we have you work more and do more. It's how do we have you allocate your time really wisely so you're working smarter, not harder. So we're doing quality, and when we are showing up, we are making sure we're showing up for the things that are going to drive profit. So hopefully that makes sense. In terms of peace and joy, I I think this kind of goes to the time piece, but I think it's just starting to put this front and center and make sure we are prioritizing our peace. And so yes, this kind of goes back to the first pillar with our nervous system and literally like how do we regulate that and prioritize our inner peace. But also things like if I'm prioritizing my time and I'm prioritizing my peace, it's also setting up boundaries for things like I had to work home. This was about 2 years ago. My father was sick and I was working at home, and my time and my peace and my joy are a pillar as much as my family is a value, and that was a really important time for me. But one of the things I had to do to prioritize my peace was literally put a sign on my door when I was working asking people not to come in and interrupt me, because I had to really prioritize my peace and prioritize my business and my peace in running my business and my nervous system in running my business and treat my business with the respect it deserved as much as I need to respect and treat the reason I was home with that priority and focus. But I couldn't do both at the same time. So I had to pick one at a time and really make sure I was honoring that time and protecting my peace around it. Hopefully that makes sense. So I think just starting to look at, is this something I'm prioritizing in my business? If not, what do I need to do to hold a boundary or to communicate so that I am prioritizing and protecting my peace, protecting my time, using it really, really wisely. And then with joy, this is like mindful of our time. This is like almost such a big topic here, but I think just seeing with joy, I think this is where we can get confused, because sometimes, especially in business, what brings you joy is not what will feel joyful in the moment. And I think we have to be very mindful of not confusing that. I was talking about that with a client this morning about the difference between instant gratification and long-term joy, fulfillment, flow. And so much of what actually brings us joy is on the other side of challenging tasks. They've done research on this about flow. It's usually something that's actually a little bit challenging and stretchy. And so I think just really being mindful of how am I prioritizing joy in my business, prioritizing the things in business that light me up, and then I'm doing things in a way that is aligned and that really matches. Like serving my clients brings me massive joy. I want to focus the majority of my day around serving my clients in business. Also, I need to know what brings me joy outside of business so I can prioritize that, because the more joy I feel, the more I know I'm in the energy that manifests money, that attracts clients, that helps me have new ideas, that helps me show up and serve all of you from a different energy state, kind of pillar one that we talked about. And I also need to know that sometimes the very things that are going to bring me the most joy are going to feel uncomfortable in the moment. And I need to be aware of that so I can show up for the I can maximize my capacity for joy. So for example, the first time I went live, that did not bring me joy. That brought me sweats, right? But what is on the other side of that did bring me joy and brought me exponentially more joy because I went through the challenging, uncomfortable thing. And so I think just understanding that about joy, understanding that about flow, understanding that about business and kind of the difference between instant and long-term results. And a question I posed to my client today that I think can be sometimes really helpful for you is just looking at what is the long-term thing that is going to bring me joy that I'm craving, and then seeing, is this immediate uncomfortable action, is what I want, is that joy on the other side of it worth showing up for? If so, it is worth being uncomfortable in this moment and seeing that is actually a joy-generating activity. As much as sometimes the very in the moment, immediate gratification things can also bring us joy, but just being very mindful of that in business, because your brain can lie to you to avoid discomfort, to avoid fear. And that sometimes can be the very thing that sabotages you from having the most joy as well as profit in your business. Marie says, you're doing a great job on this live. It's so interesting, profound. I love you so much. Thank you for saying that. Also, thank you for saying that, because this is also a long live. So I really, really, really appreciate that. So with this last one, what I would offer, and I put something in the playbook for this, to spend some time around this, one of the big questions I put is, what, if any, resistance do you notice around consciously prioritizing and scheduling your time, peace, and joy? Notice where you have resistance, kind of same way with notice where you have resistance around receiving support. Because that's going to go back to, if I'm activated, if I'm triggered, if I'm noticing resistance, if I'm noticing fear, I go back to pillar one. First thing, pillar one, mindset, energy. How do I get myself to neutral? And then can we look at some of the practical strategy here with time, peace, and joy? Time tracking. What am I prioritizing? What do I need to show up for so that I'm really owning, managing my time, giving my time the respect it needs, prioritizing my peace, prioritizing my joy, and prioritizing true joy, not sugar-coated, sugar-free joy that is like saccharine and like sweet in the moment, but like gives you no long-term payoff. We want the full fat, full sugar ice cream in your business for the long-term joy. I don't know if that analogy actually works, but that's where we're going today. So I hope this is helpful for y'all. I'm gonna give a quick recap through these pillars and then I will close this out. As I'm doing so, I know I threw a lot at y'all today. Rewatch this if you need to. You have the playbook for this. Remember, this isn't one size fits all. This isn't about taking in all the information as much as it's creating awareness around these pillars and being able to revisit them in your business so that you really can get clear on what's the right problem to solve in my business, what's the right place for me to address in my business to focus attention. Am I like super strong on this side of my building and over here I'm lopsided? Then how can I just build these pillars up so I have a really solid foundation in my business? And how can I see this is always going to be the solution in business? This is where I can make decisions and discernment from whenever there's a lot of noise online selling me a shiny solution or a new strategy. I also know that this can be a lot and it can be confusing, and sometimes, most of the time, for a lot of us, we want support getting clear on how do I apply these pillars to my business? How do I get clear on, do I need to address my mindset pillar first, or do I need to look at the strategy, or what are some of the nuances of my marketing or some of the nuances of my sales process, or how do I set up that process and system around it? How do I make sure I'm taking action in a way? How do I make sure I'm profiting without sacrificing my values and without sacrificing my joy and my sanity? And if that's you and that's something you want support with, this is literally what I support my clients with all day long. We look at the clarity, mindset, strategy, and action through these. This is how I support clients. We're all about solving the right problems. It would be an honor to support you. If you got this today and you're like, this is what I need more of, we would be a great fit to work together. If you listen to this and you're like, just give me the 7-step formula, that is absolutely okay, but you would hate working with me. But if this is feeling like, oh, this makes sense, this is how I want to think about business, I want to think about my business like a business owner, I want to show up as a CEO and have that CEO level thinking, I want to be at neutral, I want to run my business from this place and do so where I'm having true joy and profitability that's sustainable, I'll drop a link for a discovery call. I do tend to be fully booked. We do have an opening. So I believe we have an opening we definitely have an opening for an intensive in February, and I think we still have an opening for a one-on-one spot in February, and we'll just see how things shake out if there's more than that, but I would recommend booking a call sooner rather than later because my spots do tend to fill up pretty quickly, and I would love to support you sooner rather than later because I do sometimes go onto a wait list. So right now we do have that availability. It's a great time to book a call, especially as we're kind of going into the rest of 2022. So I will drop a link for that. I would love to support you if that feels like your jam. If you're not sure, book a call anyway. We are very much all about fit in my world and not about trying to pressurize anyone into working together because that's not what's going to allow us to do the best results. So if you're not sure, book a discovery call. If I'm not a great fit, I have some amazing clients who are also coaches and I can always refer you out. That's very, very important to me. So I will drop a link for that and I'll put that link in the replay, the show notes as well. And this is a really great example of, we just did passive sales action. This was an active sales action, right? I'm letting you know, here's the next step. Here's the value I deliver, but I don't want you to be confused around, okay, this is helpful. Now what do I do with this? How do I get more support? I really want you to know I do one-on-one work. That's how I support my clients. I'm really, really great at what I do. I've been doing this for almost 6 years come in March. I've helped clients do everything from build their business, scale. We had 11 clients last year hit their first 100K or more. I've had plenty of clients scale to the 500K $1 million mark. So I love to meet you wherever you're at, build, grow, or scale. I'm really, really great at what I do. And I don't say that lightly. I say that from a place of I want you to know so you can feel safe booking that call if that is you. And that is an example of actively selling and helpful for those of you who that is a fit. And an act of service, in my opinion. But I'm gonna go through these pillars to close us out. So just as a recap here, and then remember you do have that playbook that you can revisit. I would recommend revisiting it every 90 days to 6 months, so you can really revisit that in your business, and then to use this, keep it in your back pocket for when you're problem solving. So pillar 1, let's see if I can scroll through all my notes that I kind of read. Pillar 1, mindset and energy. Pillar 2 is service. Remember, service with you first and then service with others. Pillar 3 is our marketing. Remember, marketing is your income is going to be as consistent as your marketing. Pillar 4 is sales. And we're talking about the active and passive sales and how you really need both in your business. Pillar 5 is your systems and processes and not letting that be a complicated marketing lingo, but really seeing that this is how you're going to create efficiency and ease in your business. And it's really going to help you focus on the actions that really do generate profit in your business. Pillar 6 is support and team. Don't be a business island. Open yourself up to support. Dip your toe in, start small if you need to, but open yourself up support. See, there is not a prize for who like grinds this out by themselves the longest. It's really like success is not created in a silo. Success is created by looking at where can I find the right support to lift me and to help lift these other pillars up. And then pillar 7, time, peace, and joy. How do you prioritize your time, your peace, and your joy? And really focusing on true joy, true peace, not that saccharine, in the moment, fake peace and joy. Really, what is that long-term peace and joy that is going to sustain you and your business for the long term? Because we want you to be around for a long time doing your beautiful work. All right, I love you all. Thank you for hanging with me. I know this has been a long training, and I am so appreciative for those of you who have been here, who are watching to the end, who are watching in the replay. Remember, if you did comment, you will be entered to win that free one-on-one session. We will pick those on Friday. If you don't want it, we will give it to someone else. That is absolutely okay. I love you, love you, love you, and I appreciate you. We'll send a replay tomorrow with the playbook, and then I'll be back next week with a much more normally timed live stream. We'll be talking about some consistency. Bye, y'all.